So banktothefuture.com is an equity crowdfunding platform. For anyone familiar with the TV show Dragon's Den, it's like an online Dragon's Den. Entrepreneurs pitch online and anyone can be a dragon. The important feature about Bank to the Future is its democratic finance. It democratizes investing because in the UK we have a regulatory environment that we've been working very hard to create, whereby it opens up who can invest in companies. So now you can invest as little as £10, £100, whatever it is that you're comfortable with, and get shares in companies. The other thing that's unique to the UK is that we have a tax structure whereby people can invest in certain companies that qualify, and you can claim back what you invest about up to 50% from your income tax. Now in the UK, there's not really any way of claiming back your income tax, but there's also more generous tax breaks, which in the worst case scenario, if the company goes bust, you can essentially get 86% of what you invest back from the government. So when you combine these forces of democratic finance through Bank to the Future and equity crowdfunding with tax breaks, and then you have, as a long-term supporter of Bitcoin, the key to the growth of Bitcoin is to build the infrastructure so it becomes useful to more and more people and to deal with a lot of the problems that people have with Bitcoin at the moment. And the way that we do that is through entrepreneurship. So the more businesses that can get funded through a democratic finance and some certain businesses qualifying for these tax structures, it can unlock a ton of money that's being paid in tax right now to create jobs, to build the infrastructure and build finance the way it's meant to be in the future. So if you look at our financial system today, it consists of a series of large financial institutions that essentially take the relationship away from people and what happens with their money. So if you look at a bank, people deposit money, it goes through this big institution called a bank, and is lent out on the other side, and it's also used as collateral in order to create money, and no one has any idea of what happens with their money. On the other side of that, you look at pension funds and venture capital funds. It's money that's being pooled, goes into a financial institution. That financial institution allocates that money into different asset classes, and then those different asset classes are investing in different things, and no one really knows what happens. And so what we saw with the financial crisis is the breakdown in the relationship between whose money it is and what actually happens with that money. And so what we're seeing with the birth of crowdfunding and peer-to-peer financial institutions is, for the first time, we're seeing the disintermediation, the deinstitutionalization of finance, where people actually see what happens with their money and people actually know where it's allocated. Now, my belief and what I've been forecasting is that while this is a small market at the moment, every single financial product is about to be deinstitutionalized and turned into a crowd-based product, which is built off the fundamental principle of transparency in finance. And when you have transparency in finance and when people know what happens with their money, for the first time, when you take that on the scale of where it could be, you have for the first time what gets funded reflecting the values of society. So when you look at equity crowdfunding and crowdfunding platforms, the things that get funded are the things that people actually want, that drive a community, that have a tribe, that have a shared ideology. And so what you're seeing is, for example, in the future, rather than football club Manchester United going public, and although that's a form of selling shares to their fans, they could crowdfund it and raise all their finance from their fans, and their fans decide, what types of funds are raised for different players, or whatever the future of the company might be. So it's democratizing that. On the flip side, you gave the example of AIG. Now, AIG was bailed out and was one of the most expensive mistakes to taxpayers around the world. But if that went through a crowdfunding platform, I don't think people would have been too passionate about funding that. And I don't think we would have, this vast, protecting of a financial system that is not built of transparency and no longer works and is broken, and we're kicking the can down the road a little bit further. And we can allow this alternative finance, peer-to-peer, transparent, crowd-funded, alternative currency, digital era to emerge, and entrepreneurs to sit on top of that and innovate different solutions that the crowd determining whether they're good solutions through crowd diligence. And that's the ideology that we've bought into a Bank to the Future. And while we're starting small with equity crowdfunding, we think that that translates across the entire financial sector. Bank to the Future does an incubation process where we help businesses get investment ready. That includes valuing their company, recording a video to pitch to investors, business planning, getting the tax structure so they can offer really generous tax breaks, getting the legals right, the financials, and everything you need to do to present to an investor on our platform. And so what we did is we decided, well, what if we could find some really good Bitcoin businesses that were furthering the infrastructure and the growth of the Bitcoin environment, help them get investment ready so they can pitch on banktothefuture.com. And also Max Kaiser is now moving into rewards-based crowdfunding with a new startup called StartJoin. And if we could get some, really serve the Bitcoin community and run some investor events and have them pitch on our platforms, really, for finance. So that's what we did. We created that infrastructure. We've taken our first 4 non-competing Bitcoin businesses. We're currently incubating them at the moment. In March, we'll be doing an investor event, March 2014. In January 2014, we'll be incubating some more businesses and just getting them ready for crowdfunding and to be able to take advantage of some of the tax advantages of raising finance in the UK through UK equity crowdfunding platforms.